What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Mark Smith. And we just got done watching one of the most exciting games thus far in the 2024 Olympics. The last game in the 2024 Olympics, the last match, the last anything, because now the Olympics is officially over. And it was between USA women's basketball versus France, and France gave USA women's basketball everything they had, even up to the last wire when Gabby Williams' foot was on the line when she tried to make a tie for the game at the end of the fourth quarter. And it was exciting. It was fun to watch. It was fun to watch France kind of galvanize their troops and almost pull up what would have been one of the greatest upsets ever, because the USA women's basketball team is the most decorated team in the history of probably the Olympics, if we're really being honest. And just watching the game, it was a lot of things that were going on, but Gabby Williams was very special. She plays for the Seattle Storm. She needs to get more minutes. She was a bucket. She really put the team France on her back, and she really was dominating. Asia Wilson didn't really shoot the ball particularly well, but her ability on the defensive side on the basketball court, getting out on the perimeter, guarding guards, she was incredible, as well as Breanna Stewart grabbing rebounds and grabbing boards. But now that we got that all out the way, now that we congratulated Team USA women's basketball, 8th straight gold, that is super, super impressive. That is something that has probably never be done ever again for a team. They are phenomenal. They are great. They are truly one-on-one, but it was a lot of politics that went on in the women's basketball for the USA side, and there's been a lot of conversation that has gone on for women's basketball on the USA side. So much conversation about the players that should have been there that wasn't there, and we really didn't hear much due to the fact that the women's basketball team was dominating. But today, it was as clear as day that Caitlyn Clark should have been a part of the USA basketball team. And I'm going to give you several reasons why, but most importantly, we're going to talk about initially the issues that we saw throughout the tournament for Team USA. And this was the first time they went up against a team that really was able to not only be small, but also play with a fast tempo and pace. That's what France did. And when we were watching USA basketball, we watch women's sports in general, it's a lot of sets being ran. It's a lot of design plays being ran in the half court because the game is more predicated on skill set than athleticism. But when you need a player to be able to break down a defense, we need a player to be able to have some flair and creativity, when you need a player that can find an open man and be a playmaker for your team, it was one that was at home. And even if you look at the women's USA roster, when they finally start playing Sabrina Ionescu more minutes, great things tend to happen for Team USA women's basketball when they start playing her more minutes. But it just goes back to watching this game. I couldn't happen but think in my mind that, wow, not only did they need Caitlyn Clark for a marketability standpoint, because even if you watch today's game with France and versus the Team USA, the stands weren't as big as many projected, even though France was essentially had a home game. So for a popularity and a branding standpoint, we look at Caitlyn Clark and we look at her greatness and what she does for the women's game for her overall growth and her overall popularity. She's the most popular women's basketball player today. And I look at the dream team. And when the dream team, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Charles Barkley, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, I look at the dream team and how the dream team was built, and one of the reasons why the dream team was formed, for them to dominate globally, but also for them to really build and promote the brand of basketball for USA men's. This was the perfect opportunity for the women's game and also USA women's basketball to really promote the brand of the women's game globally, similar to the 1992 dream team. And even Draymond Green came out and stated this because that is the type of stage where women's basketball is currently in. They're still currently in the promoting and the building and the growing stage, especially when we talk about globally. So not having your most global or marketable or popular player on your roster, even though she is a rookie, whether you played her or not, it's the game is about popularizing the game. The game is about growing the game, and it's all about branding. It's all about marketing. It's all about increasing eyes on your game so you can increase revenue. And the USA women's basketball did a terrible job by not having Caitlyn Clark on this roster. Now, once again, they won gold, 67-66 against France. It was a very tight game, but due to everything that's been happening, Caitlyn Clark was trending on social media because of the way that the USA were playing, but also the fact that when you watch the game, you notice that it was players that are on this roster that shouldn't have been on the roster due to politics, and that really kind of was hurting Team USA instead of helping them. And we look at Caitlyn Clark, we look at a player, once again, that's a generator. She can play make, she can also score in a variety of ways. And we look at some of the guards that they have on this team, it was very questionable. It was questionable decisions of bringing certain guards on this roster over Caitlyn Clark and even over Enrique as well, because the Team USA, when your sets aren't working, they were really struggling in the half court because they had nobody that can really create off the dribble and get to work and go get a bucket or play make for others. And that's where Enrique would have came in. That's where Caitlyn Clark would have came in, because they have that ability to create off the dribble. They have that ability to put rim pressure at the rim and suck in the defense and find the open man, especially Caitlyn Clark or Enrique creating off the dribble and getting their own shot. That's what they were struggling. If they would have had they would have replaced, Deanna Taurasi, who's my GOAT, one of my GOATs. Like, they would have replaced Gray and, Jewel Lloyd and Alyssa Thomas. Nobody's going to replace Deanna Taurasi. She was going to be on the team regardless. But if you, on a basketball standpoint, Caitlyn Clark and Enrique are probably better than all those ladies I mentioned: Chelsea Gray, Deanna Taurasi, Alyssa Thomas, and Jewel Lloyd. If they just would have replaced two of those players with Caitlyn Clark and Enrique, we wouldn't have been in this position where it was a dogfight in the fourth quarter due to the fact that nobody could really create off the dribble and create opportunities and buckets for themselves. So we wouldn't even been in the spot, and that's just the God's honest truth. So Caitlyn Clark was needed marketability-wise, but also Caitlyn Clark was needed game-wise as well. And that's what people were trying to pretend like, oh, well, she wouldn't have played. She would have been like Tyrese Halliburton and Jason Tatum. That's probably true due to the fact of who the coach was. But at the same time, how can you watch this France versus USA gold game and you notice how they had no guards that really can create opportunities for other individuals, and then they had no players that can really create off the dribble in the half-court setting. So it was interesting to watch this. And once again, Grant Williams came out and he stated about how in the press rooms, how nobody was really watching the women's game, how nobody was really talking about the women's game, and just the overall marketability of the women's game in Paris was really horrible. And he was doing media out there. But the problem is, when you have a team that comes out and says, or a committee that comes out and says that we're not really focused on growing the game, we're more focused on just actually going out and winning, it's a backwards kind of like thought. And you're doing things backwards. And not only that, even though they won, and it's very impressive, and their most decorated team ever for teams-wise goals in the Olympics, 8 straight gold medals, the marketability, this was their best opportunity to grow the game globally due to a marketability factor. Well, not just Caitlyn Clark, but also they could have brought on Angel Reese as well. But also having your best players perform and dominate and really go out and show the world how great you are from a global and branding aspect, but also for a game aspect as well. Because you're fooling yourself if you watch this gold game or watch a lot of these games, even though the women's team was dominating each game by an average of 18 points or more. You're fooling yourself if you believe that they couldn't benefit from a marketing global standpoint with Caitlyn Clark and also a game standpoint with Caitlyn Clark as well, and also Enrique. So shout out to the women's team, though. I'm happy that they won. 8th straight, that's something hard to do. Kalia Copper is a bucket. She should have been playing more from the start as well. And it just seems like a lot of politics goes on for us in the game of women's basketball in general. And we've seen it on the largest scale for us at the 2024 Olympics. But at the end of the day, watching this game, Caitlyn Clark was needed from a playing and game wise standpoint. And that's just a fact. We can try to pretend like she wouldn't have played. Yeah, maybe she wouldn't have played because the coaches or stuff like that. But if you're watching this game and you're watching the ladies the guards at the guard position, it's only I'm gonna be honest. Other than Sabrina Uescu, I don't know if Caitlyn Clark's not the second best guard in the WNBA after just watching the Olympics. And that's just a fact. Like watching some of the guard play and the decisions that were being made, and also just kind of like the play style or lack thereof at times, it was very kind of like eye-opening to me that, wow, either Caitlyn Clark is really, really at this level already, or the guard position at the WNBA needs to improve when we talk about some players creating opportunities for themselves and also creating off the dribble. Because watching this France game, and I watch a lot of WNBA, and Jackie Young was special. Jackie Young coming in playing defense really helped change this USA women's basketball team. But watching this game, it was just opportunities where the set broke down, and I'm looking at players to go out and get a bucket. And then it's hard for me to watch that when it's just like, I know you had two bucket getters at home and two women that can create off the dribble and create opportunities for other people like that. Enrique with the flair, the excitement, the creation ability, the dominating and understanding the pointillistic details on the basketball court for us, getting to her spots at will. She would have been a problem, especially in this France game, which it was needed. Caitlyn Clark, rim pressure, getting to the rim, the hesitation and go, making sure that like finding an open man when she's creating, because all eyes are sucked in due to her gravity on the basketball court. So she's easy to find open women on the basketball court. She would have made the USA women's team more lethal, but also more fun to watch, because now you open up space for all of these other players with Caitlyn Clark's rim protection, with her playmaking ability, and also her shot making ability as well, and her gravity off the ball. So it's just like politically reasons why these ladies were on the team, but from a game wise, like they deserve to be on the team because they actually were kind of needed. And we saw that in the France game. So it's just kind of like, you don't care about growing the game from a marketing standpoint and a branding standpoint. But we really almost like, and they thank God they won, because if they didn't win, the reaction of the world would have been insane. It would have been crazy if they would have lost. Like, thank God Team USA women's basketball won. And it was a very dog game. They almost lost. They only won by 1 point. This was the first time we ever saw, really the women's game really be, for us, like the USA women's team really be kind of like, all right, what's going on? It went down to the wire. This is the first time we ever saw that in a women's game. And watching this game, it was clear that Caitlyn Clark's playmaking ability was needed, Enrique's creation ability was needed, and also Caitlyn Clark's on-court gravity was needed, whether she has the ball in her hands or not, was actually needed from a game-wide standpoint, due to the fact that when we talk about guards, Sabrina, Caitlyn Clark, Enrique. Like those are the top 3 guards in the WNBA. And due to politics, we saw Jewel Lloyd playing a lot. We saw Dana Taurasi. We saw Chelsea Gray playing a lot, and this and that. Even the girl Brittany Griner, like she didn't play a lot this game because of the tempo, but it was just like a lot of stuff just didn't make sense because a lot of things it felt like it was more so like a legacy spots given out or a legacy act for some of these women, and which is fine, and I'm okay with that definitely. But like things really could have hit the nail on the head if they would have lost this game because we wouldn't even been in this situation once again if we would have just brought 2 players, Enrique and also Caitlyn Clark, instead of, and I'm not gonna say Deanna Taurasi because Taurasi's a GOAT, but instead of Chelsea Gray, Jewel Lloyd, Alyssa Thomas, like I love those players a lot, and Jewel Lloyd is still a bucket in this league, but consistency wise, even during the regular season, it's just kind of like I would probably rather have Enrique over her, and I would rather have also Caitlyn Clark over her. And Chelsea Gray is coming off an injury, but at this point in her career, and even Chelsea Gray's coming off an injury, but at this point in her career, Caitlinclark is better than her, and also Kelsey Blum. I know she's a shot maker at times, and she can shoot the 3-point, the ball. But like Caitlyn Clark is better than her as well. So it's just interesting to see, and it was interesting to watch. And I'm very happy for the women's basketball team. But at the same time, facts is facts, and the truth is sometimes uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, they won, the most decorated team, 8th straight, 61 straight wins. That's very impressive. It's something that's probably will never be done before. It's something that's never been done before. I don't know how long it's going to continue, but it still was fun. It still was special to watch. And I'm happy for the ladies winning their 8th straight gold. But this game made me very, very nervous, and also is going to make a lot of people have conversations and talks about like, okay, well, you barely won the gold game, but you still won because at the end of the day, nobody's going to remember the score. They're just going to remember you got that gold medal around your neck. But at the same time, people are going to say that like, y'all lied about the marketability stuff with not needing to grow the game globally, because if you look at all the teams that played and participated in the women's game, USA was at the bottom of the attendance, even them playing at the gold game against the host nation. They were still, the attendance wasn't as high as it could have been. So you lied about not needing a player to help grow the game globally and marketing and marketability and overall branding. You lied about not needing Caitlyn Clark for that because she's the most popular player in the women's game. And so you lied about not needing a player to grow the game globally so much that you got people that are commentating and also involved in the media that are doing media runs with the WNBA, talking about the difference between how the women's game is being covered compared to other Olympic sports and also the USA men's basketball team as well. People are complaining about that. But they said that they weren't concerned about growing the game globally, just about winning. So that's what they said. But we know marketability, branding, it all matters because at the end of the day, profit increases, revenue increases with more branding and with more overall marketing. We know that is true. So you lied about saying you didn't need Caitlyn Clark for that standpoint. It wasn't really a big deal. That was a lie. And now to come and find out, now you lied about not needing her game wise, because as if you watch some of these games and if you watch this France versus USA gold medal game, it's clearly not only that Caitlyn Clark was needed this game, but she probably was needed in some other games as well. I'm not going to sit here and cap like I watched every game that the WNBA played in, but I watched about 3 or 4 of them. Not the WNBA, I'm sorry, Team USA women's basketball. I've watched 3 or 4 of them. But it was clear that you needed Caitlyn Clark marketability-wise, but it was clear also that you needed Caitlyn Clark from a game-wide standpoint as well. Because from a game-wide standpoint, she's probably a top 3 guard in the world, could say argue top 2, but as well, her playmaking ability, rim pressure, being a 4-level scorer, being a threat as soon as she comes back half court because of her scoring ability, but also because her overall feel for game IQ. You needed that on the basketball court. You needed her in the France gold versus the France versus USA women's gold game. You needed her to be able to create offense for other players, for her playmaking ability, or also creating off the dribble and getting her man off of you and sucking in the defense as well. You needed a guard like that, and you didn't have that. And this was the first time when we saw a team actually just really lock in on Asia Wilson and say, okay, our focus is going to go on Asia Wilson. We're going to play 1 foot in the paint, and then everybody else, you're just going to have to make shots. You're just going to have to really dominate, because even though Asia Wilson still had 20 points, she had 20 plus points in this game. It was a hard 20, but also because the defense was so keyed and locked in onto her and made everybody else have to beat them. And they didn't have to, and they almost didn't do that. They almost lost because of that game plan. Because at the end of the day, when those sets break down, when you can't run any motion offense, when you can't run and find the open man or score within your sets, you need players that can create opportunities for others, but also create off the dribble and get you buckets. You need players that can score and dominate in the half court or create in the half court, which is going to allow other people to find success. And unfortunately, we saw in the gold medal game that the USA basketball team didn't really have that. And a player that they did have that can kind of do that wasn't really getting the minutes that she deserved until really today. And that was Sabrina Ionescu. And even Sabrina Ionescu, she's a combination guard. She can create, she can score. She really plays within a system, which is really great, and she's really dominant. But her game there wasn't really allowed to get off the way it could have been, because it was a lot of times she had to share minutes, and also she had to share playing time, and also she wasn't starting compared to some of her contemporaries who shouldn't have been starting over her. So imagine you had Sabrina Ionescu, imagine you had Caitlyn Clark and Enrique all playing together, and all 3 guards that can create off the dribble. And even if you're not starting all 3, of course, you're starting 2 out of the 3, can create off the dribble, can create for others, and it's a threat from to shoot the ball outside. So when your sets break down in a half-court setting and you need a bucket, you need somebody to say, here, take me to the promised land. The game is close. The game is in crunch time. And you have Asia Wilson. She can do that as well. But Asia Wilson is a wing, and she's also very, her game is also kind of power-oriented. For it's like getting to the rim, bumping, using her body, hitting the fadeaways as well. That's her game, but her game is not really breaking down somebody, a defender off the dribble, to say like a Enrique, to say like a Caitlyn Clark. And that's why they tend to struggle in this game. So now you lied, once again, you lied about the marketability and global standpoint, but you also lied about the game-wise standpoint of saying you didn't need Caitlyn Clark. And obviously from a marketing, branding, and just popularity standpoint to help grow the women's game in general, Caitlyn Clark was needed on the Team USA women's basketball team. But also from a game-wise standpoint, Caitlyn Clark was also needed because of she's pretty damn good at basketball. And she's already, as a rookie, probably a top 3 guard in this league. And you can make a case probably for top 2, depending on if you just talk about fit and level of responsibility. And a lot of times when we look at teams and we look at players and we look at sometimes players getting certain spots over players for his Olympic roster or just even all-star games and things of that nature, when you look at the WNBA and the NBA, a lot of times fit and responsibility also really matters, because let me tell you something. It's way more easier to do what Jackie Young and Kelsey Plum do with the Las Vegas Aces, than it is for them to go on and do what Caitlyn Clark is doing with the Indiana Fever, or what Arika is having to do with the Dallas Wings and kind of have to do everything for this team because they're missing a lot of key pieces. So a lot of times those players aren't getting the level of respect or aren't giving the level of like, yo, they probably deserve this spot a little more than certain players because of the level of responsibility that they have compared to a player that's a second, third, or even fourth option on a really, really great team. Because imagine if Caitlyn Clark was on a team like Las Vegas running the show. Imagine Caitlyn Clark was on a team like the Chicago Sky and how great they would even be with Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese with her running the show. Imagine Enrique on a team like the Connecticut Suns instead of Alyssa Thomas, giving them a true shot creator, a true bucket getter, a true player that can break down the defense, which is kind of like they're lacking from a team standpoint because their whole team is really predicated on defensive first. So it's levels to basketball and it's levels to the game when you really break down the nuances of fit, responsibility, and also players' play style when you're trying to form teams, when you're trying to elevate teams, when you're trying to make decisions on rosters for us like all-star games or Olympic rosters for us like who are really the best players in the league? Who really deserves a spot? Does the women that play on the stacked teams and the super teams and the top four teams in the WNBA all deserve the same spots? And then you add them because they're second and third options. And then you add the legacy acts on here that traditionally have always been a part of the USA team because what they did in the past, okay. Or do the players who have a lot of responsibility and may not be on the best team, but the level of responsibility that they have in trying to help this team succeed is way more than a second or third option. Those are questions that you have to ask yourselves. Those are things that a lot of people don't really understand when we talk about issues between things being political instead of being overall based on substance, based on what you do on the basketball court, based on your ability, your skill set, your talent, and the way you produce. So, once again, shout out to the USA women's basketball team. And this is not like a stream to really talk about, they won at the end of the day. That's all that matters. But at the same time, it was just really the highlight why Caitlyn Clark was trending on social media and also to highlight the level of importance of getting away from being political and just really putting the best players on the roster and also just to really kind of talk about the truth behind things being based on, oh, we don't need marketability. We don't need this player for game wise. When the truth of the matter is you needed not just Caitlyn Clark for game wise, you needed Enrique for game wise, and you needed Caitlyn Clark for marketability and branding, but also you could have used, Angel Reese as well for those things. So it just feels like the women's game is growing so well. And this summer was really the summer of the WNBA for its excitement, for its people watching. And then it's like the Olympics came and then it's just kind of like things fell flat due to things that didn't necessarily have to happen. Because now we're going to go back into the WNBA season. And it feels like instead of us going back into the W season with more energy, more excitement, more like hoorah, it's like it feels like they're starting from scratch due to a lot of kind of foolish decision making on the women's front when it comes to just a lack of marketing, branding, promoting, and nobody really watching the women's Olympics in comparison to other sports. And also due to the fact of just for a level of excitement, you leave out some of your best players on the basketball court at home. And you have players on the roster that aren't exciting compared to those other players and probably didn't deserve to be on the roster in general but they are on the roster due to not understanding responsibility and play style.